mode.
I go to slideshow.
Yeah, and then play from start.
Okay. All good?
Yep.
Okay. And I guess feel free, Noel, to let me know when you want me to. Am I going to be switching the slides?
Yeah, you'll have to switch the slides.
Okay. Yeah, I guess let me know when you need me to switch the slide, and I will.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead? Do the intro. You going to do an intro or what?
Absolutely. Okay, guys. So I wanted to introduce Dr. Noel Capon. He is an American organizational theorist and the R.C. Kopf Professor of International Marketing at Columbia Business School. Noel, is it true you have 3 PhDs? Is that?
No, just two.
Two. Okay. On Wikipedia, it says you have a PhD in chemistry, a PhD in the UCL from Manchester Business School, and a PhD from Columbia.
No, I do not have one from Manchester, but I do from Columbia.
Okay. So Noel has 2 PhDs. He I've never seen someone so accomplished in marketing. The R.C. Kopf Professor of International Marketing at Columbia University. I don't know, Noel, do you happen to know our 2 advisors for this initiative are Bjarne Sestrop and Zvi Galil, and they're both at Columbia. I
don't know. Columbia is a big university.
Columbia is big. So, guys, Noel received his bachelor's and PhD in chemistry, and he wrote a thesis entitled Experimental Evaluation of Alternative Message Variables in Personal Selling and Direct Mail. Previously held faculty positions at UCLA, Harvard Business School before joining Columbia, according to Wikipedia in 1979. He served as the chair of marketing for both UCLA and Columbia. He's been a visiting professor at INSEAD, that's an extremely prestigious business school, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, the China-Europe International Business School, Shanghai. Dr. Capon has taught marketing, sales, and strategic account management courses to MBA and EMBA students at Columbia. He also contributes to Columbia Business School's executive education and is designed, directed, and taught a wide variety of marketing, sales, strategic, global account programs. He also designs and directs and teaches numerous custom programs for major corporations globally. It says that you co-founded the Chief Sales Executive Forum, which is now in its 10th year, and you still sit on the board of the Strategic Account Management Association. It's published over 60 refereed articles and book chapters, published more than 20 books. Holy crap. Without further ado, let's give a massive, warm round of applause for Dr. Noel Capon. Let's go.
Okay, thank you, Zach, very much. Good morning. Good morning to those in the US. Good afternoon, I guess, to those in Europe, and I suppose good night to anyone in Asia. I'm very pleased to be part of this Turing speaker series. And so, what I'm going to talk about is my strategic view of marketing. I'm going to have to go pretty fast, but any of you who are interested in what I'm talking about, if you go to Wessex, that's WESSEX learning.com, which is a publishing company I founded some years ago. You can find my stuff there. Okay, let me ask the question. And by the way, with respect to, if you have any questions, please feel free to just break in and ask your question. We've had a little bit of technical trouble here this morning, so Zack is going to be forwarding my slides.
Absolutely.
But let me ask a first question. What if you're in business? What are you in business for? What's your sort of day concern? Anyone have an answer to that?
Driving revenue for stakeholders and making sure that the organization is profitable.
Well, that's the second one. Then making sure you're profitable. So next slide.
Okay.
Okay. So you want to make profits today and promise profits tomorrow. Often if you're in the startup business, it's probably more promising profits. But okay, let's suppose you do a good job of that. Then what happens? Well, what happens? Next slide is that the organization survives and grows. Or the sort of the reverse way to ask that question is, if you do not make profits today and or promise profits tomorrow, what happens? And what happens is you go out of business, you go bankrupt. So in a sense, earning profits is a sort of measure of how well you're doing, and if you're doing well, you get to play the game another year. If you don't, as so many companies do, especially small companies do, you go out of business. And if you do make profit, survive and grow, who gets very happy? Next slide. Well, people who get very happy are our shareholder. You improve shareholder value. Okay, so that's a very simple but very powerful set of relationships. Question: what asset do you need as a company? What asset? No matter which company, big or small, whether you're in Denmark or in Shanghai, the asset you need. Next slide is you've got to attract, retain, and grow customers. So that's sort of central ongoing job. If you secure customers, then you get revenues, hopefully turn into profits, and good things happen to you. Okay, next slide.
Yep.
And the way you get customers is you've got to deliver customer value. And next slide. I can't see that. Can you pull that up the screen a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me play around.
Deliver customer value.
Yeah, I'm just gonna reshare Parsa.
Okay.
I gotta put it on. Okay, let me see. We're getting it. Okay. Is that better?
Oh, no, it isn't. No, I don't see it, but I'll make do. I don't hope everyone else can see it, but I know what's there. That you've got to make investments, incur costs, and so forth. So you do those sort of things. You then deliver customer value. If you do a good job, you get attract, retain, and grow customers. Make profit, survive and grow, and shareholders get very happy. So that's a sort of simple, what I call a fundamental business model. And I think, hoping you would all agree, that seems to make sense. There's only one thing that's missing, and that next slide, please.
Next slide.
Yeah, that's the right slide. And there's some other guys trying to do the same thing. So the business world is all about if you do a better job than the other guys, good things happen to you and shareholder value increases. If the other guys do a better job than you do, you ultimately go out of business. Okay, so that's what I call that's sort of fundamentals. Now, next slide, please.
Yep.
Okay, so there's the sort of basic core of what's going on is you, the firm, and they'll get a set of customers. Your job is to deliver value. See there on the top, deliver value to customers. If you do so, next slide, then customers deliver value to you in the form of currency. I mean, it used to be barter, and it still is in some cases. I give you my pigs and you give me a couple of cows. I mean, that's a barter arrangement. It's a value. So it's a value exchange. At the core of the economy is a set of value exchanges between suppliers and the firm and customers. Okay, now next slide.
Yep.
Now that activity, this sort of central exchange activity between the firm and customers, exists in what I call a market environment. These are issues that are sort of close to the firm and customer, and activities in this market environment among these different entities impact your ability, in fact, to deliver value to customers. And the items there I've got are the supply chain, competitors, of course, which we talked about, because they're trying to do that themselves. Then complementers, that's an entity in the marketplace whose action, they're not competitors, but whose actions can impact your ability to have an exchange with customers. And then there are publics, like, for example, not-for-profit organizations whose activities may impact what you're doing. So, for instance, Greenpeace, for example, if Greenpeace sends a ship to put an oil terminal out of business, or an oil platform out of business, that not-for-profit Greenpeace is affecting you. And each country has a set of not-for-profit organizations whose vision or objectives may be such that they take actions which impact you.
What is an example of a complementer?
A complement. Let me get to that in just a sec. So let's have the next slide.
Got it.
Okay, so this is the competitive environment. I'll get to competitors in just a second. Competitors, the notion is that this diagram comes from Michael Porter from Harvard, who developed this, maybe 20 years ago, but it's become very powerful. If you've got the firm there, then you've got a set of competitors who are like the firm. So if you're General Motors, for example, one of your competitors is Ford, another one is Toyota. They make the same sorts of products with the same basic technology, driven by the same type of fuel system. But then you've got these two on the left and the right. One on the left is the potential competitors could come in, new entrants who could come into the market, and many companies in the West have found, 20 years ago, they found Japanese companies came into their markets, and now they're finding Chinese companies come into their market. So there are not competitors right at the moment, but they're likely to be competitors. And then on the right, you've got indirect competitors. And so these are competitors who offer similar value than you do, but offer it in some different way. So if you were, example, years ago, a pencil manufacturer, you made wooden pencils. There are a lot of other people who made wooden pencils. They were direct competitors. But then in came ballpoint pens. They'd have been indirect competitors. Then you've got your suppliers up there at the top, suppliers who can integrate forward. They can say, hey, I'm going to stop selling my raw material to you. I'm actually going to make the same products as you make. So they're competitors. Or it could be the customers at the bottom there who say, I'm no longer going to buy your products. Actually, I'm going to make them myself. So that's what we call the competitive environment. Okay, next.
Yep.
Okay, that's the supply chain. And they're upstream, midstream, and downstream. So upstream are like the suppliers to you. Clearly, their activities can impact you. Downstream, so you've got a product, you've got to get it to customers. So you may have to use distributors, wholesalers, retailers. They're important to you. And then what I call midstream, these are the people that help you develop your strategy. So it could be an advertising agency or a pricing consultancy or something like that. They can impact you. Now the next one, next slide.
Next slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking complementer. So there's a chart of Facebook's share price starting. I think it was in the well, they started around 2003, something like that. But what you see is a consistent upward trajectory of their sales of their stock price, and then it takes a couple of years ago it took a big dip. So the question is, what happened to Facebook? Now, certainly it started facing some direct competition from TikTok and organizations like that. But that doesn't that competition doesn't explain the sudden drop in Facebook's share price. What probably happened to Facebook was Apple. Now, Apple is not a competitor of Facebook, but what you may recall is that a few years ago, Apple put in some privacy rules such that if you were an Apple customer, you could choose whether or not you wanted your data, browsing data, to be passed on to other companies or not. And in fact, I think a large percentage of companies actually, a large percentage of individuals actually stopped, said they wanted their privacy. They did not want their data passed on. But that data was absolutely critical to Facebook. That's how Facebook was able to tell its customers, meaning companies, that their ads would be directed to people with certain browsing characteristics. So Apple was not a competitor of Facebook, but they were a complementer. They allowed Facebook to develop its products, but then when they pulled the plug on privacy, that really affected Facebook. So a complementer is any organization whose actions can either affect you negatively or affect you positively. Okay, next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so so you have this exchange process between the firm and its competitors, impacted by these market forces, these different market factors or market entities. And that's just a repeat slide of the one you saw before. Supply chain, competitors, publics, and complementers. Next slide.
Yep.
Okay, then you have what I call the pestle forces. These are a series of other forces that affect not just you, the firm, and its exchange relationship, but they affect all those other entities on the previous slide. They're sort of more broader based. P is political, and we certainly know when governments make decisions, they can have a major impact on economies, and depending on the specific decisions they make on individual firms. E, the economic environment. I throw inflation obviously into there. That's PE, and then S is the socio-cultural environment. And for this, I'm just going to the next slide.
Next slide.
Yes, please. Next slide. Question. Okay, so here you see a group of people. You see a woman in the center with a couple of young children, a couple of babies, and you see three men. There's the guy on the right with his mouth open, and then moving across on the other side of the woman, there's a man with a blue shirt, and next to him there's another man with the sort of striped white shirt. Okay, question. Who is the father of the children? I'll give you two.
One with the blue shirt.
I'll give you two hints. First of all, there's a married couple in the picture is one hint, and the second hint is that two of the adults live in London or just outside London. Two of the adults live in New York. So I still thought I heard an answer to the question. Who's the father? Somebody? Zack, what
anyone?
do you think?
Mouth open guy?
The mouth open guy. No, the mouth open guy is not the father. He is the current partner of the woman.
Okay. So blue shirt, we then would assume is
okay.
is the father.
The blue shirt guy is indeed the father. The blue shirt guy is also married. He's married to the white striped guy on his right, on the far left of the picture. So the reason I throw that up is that that would have never seen that 20 years ago. So what you've got going on there is a major change in the social in environment. Indeed, one of those girls was at school, and one of her classmates, a boy, was bragging, said, "I got two fathers," and she piped up, "Well, I got three." Who all act as a father. So yeah, the guy in the blue shirt is gay. He supplied. He made a trip to the to the NYU fertility center, and then 9 months later, those two girls showed up, and he is married to the guy on his left, the guy on his right, the guy on the far left. That would not have happened 20 years ago. So you've both got a major sort of change in the social environment and a major change in the technological environment that's made in vitro fertilization possible. Okay, next slide.
Yep.
Sort of pursuing this idea, you've got in that picture, there are three people. There's an older woman, a younger woman, and a baby. Those three are biologically related. They're biologically related. Question is, what is the relationship between the two women and the baby? How are they all related?
Baby is child of the younger woman, and younger woman is child of the older woman.
Well, that's a reasonable guess. No, but it's wrong.
Okay.
Sorry.
They're lesbians.
No, they're not. No.
Okay.
The younger woman is the granddaughter of the older woman. The older woman is about 70 at that stage. The younger woman's probably in her early 20s. The baby is the son of the older woman.
Okay.
So and we don't know exactly how that worked out. It's probably some surrogate mother or something like that. But once again, this is something you wouldn't have seen 20 years ago. A major change, environmental change. So next slide.
Yep.
Okay, I can't. Yeah, I've lost. So you've got pestle, political, economic, social, cultural. We talked about, then technological, legal, regulatory, and then the physical E for the physical environment. So you've got all, and we certainly know a lot about the physical environment is having an impact on firms right now. So these are a set of pressures. There are more than pressures on the firm. They're pressures on the whole industry. Okay, next slide.
Yep.
Okay. So what you've got there is sort of the market framework. Right in the center, you've got an external orientation, so that any firm that's going to do well has got to not only focus on the things that it does to develop products, goods, services, and so forth, but it's got to generally look outside, because there's so much stuff going on in the environment, either in that market environment, the sort of inner set of entities, or the broader environment, that things can change almost overnight. So a marketing department that's doing a decent job is externally focused. It's not just a job for the marketing department, but anywhere in the organization, you've got to be thinking externally what's going on outside in the world that could impact us, and then make changes. So that's the first item. Now on to the next slide, please.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So the external firm then welcomes change, internalizes marketing as a philosophy, and works to reduce interfunctional disagreements so that the whole organization is sort of going in the same direction. And very often in organizations, you get competition between what the sales force wants. They want lots of products to sell. Manufacturing tends to want to cut down the number of products so they can get their costs down. Finance wants something else because they're worried about what the financial markets are going to say. It's very critical to get everybody on the same page, and in part the way to do this is by having this view of the world, which makes you look outside, figure out what's going on, and then make decisions that are best for the organization. Next slide.
Yep.
Okay, so to secure success, then the first item is this sort of more general notion of external orientation, and then 6 marketing imperatives and 5 marketing principles. So let's talk about the 6 marketing imperatives. Next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First one is identify and recommend which markets to address. Typically, marketing doesn't decide what businesses to be and which markets to be, and that's typically a top management, executive committee decision. But marketing certainly has the responsibility of being out there in the environment, trying to understand what's going on, as we've just talked about, figuring out where there are opportunities and bringing those back into the firm. The executive committee will agree to go with some and probably not agree not to go, decide not to go on others. But marketing's job is twofold. One is to bring those ideas back, but then also when ideas come from other functions, whether it's manufacturing or R&D, to get a seat at the table and say whether or not this R&D proposal would in fact make any sense. Would it in fact likely bring goods or services that customers would value? So the first imperative is basically figuring out where to play. Okay, next.
Yep.
Slide. Okay, identify and target market segments. Within any market, there are typically people who don't want exactly the same thing. They want different sets of value. So just to pick on the automobile industry, which we talked about, there's some people who just want to get from A to B as unexpectedly as possible. These are people who in the past purchased a Volkswagen Bug, for example. At the other extreme, there are people who want comfort and luxury in their automobiles. The real top end, they'd have bought a Rolls Royce or maybe a Cadillac or more recently a Lexus or an Infiniti, something that prepared to pay a lot of money to get something that's just quote perfect. You'd have been people who wanted to have a sporty experience, so they'd have in years past would have bought an MG or banking on an Aston Martin, the car James Bond drove, an Aston Martin. There are other people who want a product that's they view it is technically superior, so they might have bought a BMW. So it's the job of marketing to figure out what marketing segments are out there. So sort of two jobs really. One is the sort of analytic job of figuring out what those segments are, and secondly, then this is decision of which ones to go after. And most companies, even the most the wealthiest companies tend not to be able to go after all segments. You got to make some choices. But in any event, that's the second imperative. Third, I can't see that. What does that say? Zack?
Third says direction. Set strategic
set
direction.
strategic direction. So in each of the segments, what are you in that segment for? There are three general objectives. One is, do you want to go? You're there to get growth. Second, are you there to make profits? Or third, are you there to get cash flow so that you take that cash and put it somewhere else in the organization? So, for instance, for many years, IBM was in the mainframe business. Mainframes, they made lots of money out of those, and that was basically, they ran those for cash so they could put that cash to work in other parts of the organization. A firm like Procter & Gamble or Unilever, they make a lot of money out of their basic detergents, laundry detergents. That's for cash, and they put that money in other markets and other segments. So first of all, figuring out where to play. Second of all, figuring out the segments. Third of all, figuring out what you want to do in each of those segments and what the core value is that you're going to offer. Then the next slide, I think that if you imperative 4 is to design the market offer. Now, if you've done a marketing course before, they probably taught you about the 4 Ps. I don't like the 4 Ps particularly. So I've got my mnemonic is PSPDP. You've got to design the product. That's typically a physical good or a service like a FedEx, something like that. It stands for support services. Other offers you make to your potential customer that's got to enhance the value in your core product. So a nice example of that is the Empire State Building. The Empire State Building is in a service business. It's in the business of offering value to corporations for office space. And so if they're presumably what they're concerned with is both the design of the office, the amount of light that comes into the office, the heating and the air conditioning, the ability to get to your office by an elevator, those sorts of things. So if they're working on their core product, those are the sorts of things they're working on. But it turns out that the Empire State Building also has a huge basement. So in that basement, they can put a gym, they can put a basketball court. These are essentially support services. They don't really enhance the core product, but they add additional value to the Empire State Building's offer. And lots of organizations have customer service departments whose job it is to add these extra services. So that's P for product, S for support services, P for promotion. That's the communication. That's either typically advertising or some sort of personal communication, typically through salespeople. That's now moved on to the internet, of course, and tremendous amount of, it's been a major change the last two or three years of organizations that are communicating through the internet and also through social media. D is for distribution. How we get our product to the consumer. So for Procter & Gamble, although their consumer or a Unilever, their consumers are basically households. Typically, the female head of head of household. Neither of those companies sell directly to that consumer. They reach that consumer through a distribution system, through distributors, wholesalers, and retailers. So you've got to figure that out. And then the final P is price. What's the price going to be at the end user, the final consumer, but also what the price is going to be to their direct customer, whether it's a wholesaler or a retailer. Okay. Next slide, please.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't. Can you read what's the new piece that's added there, Zack?
Yeah. Next one says 5 support. Secure support from other
secure
functions.
Support from other functions. Yes. So I've basically been focused on marketing. What marketing is going to do for the firm in terms of its customers, but there are lots of other people do stuff to enable that to happen. So manufacturing's got to, R&D's got to keep upgrading. Manufacturing's got to make it. Logistics has got to get it to the first warehouse, and so and so forth. And there are all sorts of opportunities for conflict between one function and the other. And marketing's job is to bring that all together so that everyone's pulling in the same direction. In other words, it's the sort of the operationalization, if you like, of the marketing philosophy that we talked about earlier. And next slide.
Yep.
I think is monitor control. So it's one thing to do all that stuff. The second thing is you got to make sure that the resources that you're putting in are giving you the results that you want. So you have to have some. It's typically not the most exciting part of marketing, but you have to have some systems in one to make sure whether the results we're getting are those that we planned. Typically, we have some set of objectives, the ones we talked about earlier, and then with some numbers on, we're going to make this number of revenues or this amount of profit. Did we in fact do that? And then the second part is, did the various functions, did we do what we said we were going to do? We had a plan to make those objectives, but then of different functions doing things, did we actually do what we said we would do to reach those excuse me our results? Next slide.
Next slide. Yep.
Okay, what do you got there? Secure market success. I can't. Oh, and then we've got 5 marketing principles, and these are sort of things that you should have in mind when you're making your planning and making your decisions. So next slide.
Yep.
Selectivity,
concentration.
Oh, it's the first one: selectivity and concentration. What this says, you do not spread your resources around. If you spread resources around, some competitor for any one area is going to put in more resources and going to beat you. So you've got to be clear about the areas there where you want to play, and then concentrate your resources at that in those particular areas. Okay. Next
is customer value.
You've got to deliver customer value. That's got to be the core of what the company does. It goes back to that sort of first slide we talked about, where we talked about exchange. You got to deliver customer value. And next slide, differential advantage. You got to do it better than the other guys. Just as a perfect example of that, if 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, you were taking photographs, you would use Kodak film, and you would then send off that film to be developed, and you get pictures. There was nothing wrong with those pictures. They were great. They were great pictures. But then along came digital photography. Companies that said, we'll give you an image, but we'll give it to you. A, you'll be able to see it right away as soon as you take it, and B, it won't be necessarily on paper printed, or be on some sort of screen. So the photographs initially were not as good as Kodak, but there was another value there which had to do with time that made that very attractive to many people. And as you probably know, Kodak went out of business. Interestingly, from a business point of view, Kodak were the people who discovered digital photography, but because they couldn't figure out how to make more money on digital photography than they made on their regular chemical film photography, they never pursued it. Okay, next
integration.
Integration. That's the everyone's got to work together issue. Well, there are really sort of two parts of integration. One is integration in the market. If you're going to launch the product on July the 1st, you don't want your advertising showing up in October. You want to get that integrated. Great. So it's got to be and the product's going to be in distribution so people can find it. So there's integration in the marketplace. Then there's also integration within the firm that we talked about before with respect to the different functions working together. And next slide.
Next one, customer relationships.
And customer relationships, and ultimately, the core asset is customers. So you don't want to just make one interaction with the customer, one sale with the customer. You like that customer to keep coming back. So you need to think about building that customer relationship. In fact, now people now talk about in the last 20 years, this notion of customer lifetime value, of if you've got to have a customer, how valuable are they to you? How much revenues are they going to keep and profit are they going to keep bringing to you year after year? Okay, so next slide.
Next slide. And then.
Yeah, we're back here. Okay, so in terms of what the firm has to do to be successful, to fulfill that business model that I talked about earlier, they've got to have an external orientation so they understand and keep tabs on what's going on in the environment, both the market environment of competitors, complementary supply chain, and publics. There are 6 marketing imperatives. Figure out where to play. Figure out what segments to go after, what markets to enter, what segments to go after, how to address those segments from a strategic point of view, how to figure out the market offer, product, support, service, promotion, distribution, and price. Make sure all functions are working together, integration function, and then the monitor and control to make sure your investments are giving you the results you want. And then these 5 marketing principles: customer value, critical, differential advantage, critical, but got to be better than the other guys. Let's see, integration. I'm just blanking for a second. Integration, customer relationships, and I missed one out there. Okay, next
slide.
Last slide. Okay. So you've got to have deep insight into customers, and then there's other organizations. Marketing as a philosophy, and then the six imperatives and the five principles. Okay, I think next slide.
Next slide.
I think that, and I think that's it. Okay, so I've still got a few minutes if you. I know we ran a bit over time, but if anyone's got any questions, be very happy.
Yeah, we're going to open it up to questions now. So anyone who wants to have a question, post in the chat, and we'll answer your question. Look forward to hearing. If no one has a question, I'll ask a question.
Okay.
Right.
So
So my question is regarding customer lifetime value, and we're
right.
talking about with customer relationships. Let's say company, I'm trying to think of an example. Like there are certain companies that you'll notice that don't care too much about their customers, and you kind of know it. I don't know if you ever had an experience where you're I don't know, doing some kind of, you're a customer of some company and you have a bad experience.
Right.
Is that a company that's just not employing the practice of good customer relationship management?
That's right. I see. I think it's one thing for senior man, the top people in the organization, to have a view, but it's quite another thing to get people in the periphery of the organization who may be a long way from them, organizationally, to also work with the same view and the same intensity. And also what you also got going on is you've got different in organizations. You often get different objectives in different functions, and one function is it doesn't like the other, and some of these are in the nature of the business. So if I'm a CEO, I'm going to say to my sales director, I want you to maximally get the most sales you can. But I may also say to my manufacturing director, your costs are too high. You've got to get your costs down. So let me just give you an example. And this is an example. It's in the cell phone business. It's a number of years ago, and it's LG. It used to be Lucky Gold Star, the major South Korean firm, who are they're in lots of businesses like refrigerators and stuff. They're also in the cell phone business. So LG came out with a new line of cell phones, went into marketing, into the sales force, and they did great. The product was a very good product, doing very well, sold very well, and everyone was very happy. And then things started to go wrong. Customers started to send back their cell phones. My cell phone broke. My cell phone won't work anymore, and so forth. Very, very unexpected. And so the marketing guys started looking at this and trying to figure out what had gone wrong, because things had been absolutely great, and now they were starting to be terrible. And what they found was that somewhere along the line, top management had said to manufacturing, you got to cut your costs. So the manufacturing guy did what he was supposed to do. He went and looked at the different components of a cell phone, because basically in making a cell phone, it's an amalgam of different parts from different organizations, some of which LG makes, some of which they buy from outside. They found the manufacturing guys found this one particular component which was pretty expensive, and so they set out to see if they could find someone who'd make similar, basically the same component but cheaper, and they did. And they then switched this particular component, the less expensive component, instead of the more expensive component. They were successful in terms of what top management said. They got their costs down. The problem was the new component was not as good as the old component, and it caused the product to fail. So at LG, they would try and do the best they could, but in this case, the manufacturing guys who were following instructions from the top didn't do as good a job as they should have done on ultimately quality control, and that gave a problem. So I don't think that was a case of not caring about customers, although you'd certainly feel that way if your cell phone was no longer working. But it came about because manufacturing was trying to do what they were told, but didn't go quite as far as they should have done. A lot of these problems that you get, where it certainly seems you as a customer are absolutely furious, seems that the firm doesn't care about you. I think a lot of that is that top management typically doesn't believe that, but they maybe set objectives which lead to actions that conflict with that goal. That would be what I would say. Because firms know they've got to get revenue, because if they don't get revenue, they don't have enough money to pay people. In fact,
Definitely. Does anyone else have any questions? Nothing.
Okay. Well, let me just say it was a pleasure to talk to you.
Absolutely.
I don't know how many people are out there. If you need to know more about this, I've got a book. It's called Managing Marketing in the 21st Century. Another one called Capon's Marketing Framework. Those are available at wessexlearning.com. And please feel free to be in touch if you'd like more information. I've enjoyed, and I've had the honor to be on the this Turing speaker series. Turing was, of course, a compatriot of mine. He's a little older than I was, and died many years ago. It was clearly very influential in many areas. So, Zack, thank you very much for inviting me, and good luck to all of you.
Absolutely. We'll stay in touch, and then Noel, we will be sending you your speaker gifts shortly. We'll be in touch with you for your speaker gifts to show our deep appreciation for your willingness to come speak to us.
Oh, very happy. Good luck to all of you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.